Well, hello, and thank you for joining us for another live edition of Inside EFRA. Whether it's live or through our articles, mail outs, interview features, or the EFRA Explained series, Inside EFRA is intended to bring you guys, the motorsport community, closer to what's happening inside EFRA, the European governing body of RC motorsport. Sometimes it may be announcements or presentations to explain a change in what we do. Other times it's about discussing ideas with you guys, meeting, giving you feedback and getting your answers as well, just so that we can ensure that the development plan is a reflection of what the RC motorsport community want to see. And secondly, so that we can ensure, transparency and accountability in EFRA's work. Coming up, we've got Mark Stiles and Nick Daman joining us. But Javier, hello.
Hi, Matt. What's up?
How's it going? Are you good?
Oh, good. Fortunately, here with the COVID situation, everything is good in my region, in Spain, but in my area. So that's the most positive news that we can get. Yeah, and also here again. So try to talk about the things that we love is RC and to continue working in that special plan that we are doing.
Of course.
Together with the RC community, of course.
Of course. So here's what's coming up tonight. Well, we're going to have, obviously, everyone wants to know about the event schedule, COVID update situation. We're going to briefly touch on a reminder of what the development plan is. But we've already got our guests waiting in the green room, so I'm really eager to bring them in quick as possible. But we're going to be talking about RC motorsport coverage and promotion. The case for qualifying racing, which is very interesting.
Key point.
Hot topic, which I think will be interesting to discuss. We're going to be doing that with Mark and Nick. And then we'll also talk a little bit about EFRA Explains, which is a new series. House of RC. Our new friend Connie Svensson. We'll have a little chat about Connie, and hopefully we'll talk to Connie next time. And of course, your questions. So keep them coming in because we want to hear from you. You are the main reason for us doing this. Comments are alive already, so that's great to see. So yes, Javier, wow. This is
wow. It's a very good agenda, right?
Yeah, this is
and
good.
Also a special guest today.
Yes,
Nick and Mark, that's a very, very great.
Yes. Have you? I don't know if you could see Mark in the preview, but it's quite an exciting location.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Better than to be at home. I suppose.
So. I tell you what, should we get the guests in? I reckon because they're all ready, I thought they'd be late. Should we go into the talking points and then we'll cover the COVID stuff at the end?
Yeah, that's great.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so let's welcome Mr. Mark Stiles and Nick Daman.
Well, I've been comprehending our background, haven't I? I got a picture of a dog.
Mark, it's the best place possible.
Yeah, this is under special instruction from Matt. He said he wanted to see me in a glamorous location. So
I've got a quick question, Mark. See the car behind you? Did the wheels come off properly?
On that one, yeah. That one's about 3 years old. So, although to be fair, the wheel nut design is the same on that car as it was on the one at the weekend. So
that's just
wow. How about the weekend, Mark? It's a little bit hard, right? This weekend.
Yeah. A tough one, but we learn more when we make mistakes and fail than when we succeed. So yeah, it happens, and we pick ourselves up and move on to the next one, don't we? So
yeah, you will be stronger after that race for sure.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the intention. So
that's good.
Fantastic. So thanks for joining us. Obviously, Mark is over at Mercedes and Nick is over in Milton Keynes.
Yeah. I am within 4 minutes walk of Red Bull. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's have a look at Nick's glamorous location.
Well, it's not the same. Well, let's look at the pictures. But over there, about 4 minutes is Red Bull.
Wow.
I promise that the next time I will be close to an Alpine behind me or something like that, also to be in the same level.
So guys, you've all seen the agenda of what we want to talk about. Obviously, a hot topic is how to push forward how we promote and cover RC events. We've all been meeting in a working group. We've had 2 meetings so far. Obviously, we haven't had any events to stream yet, so we're still working on the plans. There are some exciting things in the works. But I guess we'll start with you, Mark. Do you think, obviously, you're very familiar with full-scale motorsport. Do you think there are lessons? Do you think there's any inspiration that we can take from the way full-scale motorsport does its coverage that aren't totally unrealistic? Do you think there are things that we can do that are a bit more in tune with the world of full-scale motorsport?
Yeah, I think potentially yes. If you look at it on a kind of broad scale, Formula One, whilst it's motorsport, it's also entertainment. And if you're looking to broadcast and promote RC events to the wider world outside of the existing RC community, I think you need to consider it as something that has to be entertaining and draw people in. So there's definitely things that the RC community and the RC industry can learn from full-size motorsport and elite and professional sport in general about how to promote things and draw in new blood and get people interested and enthused by what's going on.
Yeah, I think when you say it has to be entertaining, I guess for that we have to have a spectacle. We have to have some form of kind of the top guys, the pros, as it were. How do we balance that with the fact that it is obviously welcoming to all, and we have to kind of welcome in the newcomers as well? It's not just the top end, is it?
That's right. I think we've spoken in our working group meetings quite a lot about. I think the term that Javier used was idols. So if you look at top level sport, we'll use Formula One as an easy example. You know, the drivers are the figureheads and the idols that the fans follow and like to watch. So, you know, there's definitely potential avenues to explore there with RC racing. You know, the top drivers around Europe and the rest of the world, can they be developed and become more well-known in the wider community and not just by people that already do RC as a hobby? But also, as you say, Matt, there's a balance to be struck between that and also giving exposure to the kind of the lower or the more amateur level, as I'm one of. You know, I don't get paid to go RC racing. It's my hobby and my passion and my interest. So I think we need to show the general public and the people we're trying to draw in that actually this is something that's accessible, that anyone can go and have a go at and do. It's not like Formula One where you have to have millions of dollars behind you and lots of connections with all the right people and companies. Actually, you can go to a shop, you can buy an RC car and you can race it, and it's perfectly feasible that Joe Bloggs off the street could buy a car this weekend from a shop and in a couple of weeks' time be racing it on the same track at this same event as multiple world and European champions. And I think that's something that's quite unique in the RC world, is that whilst there are various levels and categories of racing, actually even the pros go club racing.
Indeed, yeah.
And that giving the newcomers, beginners, lower level RC racers the opportunity to share a track and share a driver's stand with those idols, as we're looking to call them. That's definitely a selling point and something we could play on with what we're doing in EFRA, I think.
Yeah, that's fully agree. I think it's a great example that we need to really. So I fully agree with Mark about the idols. We need idols in that area in different classes. But also, I think we can use, and I think that's a good point, to use to keep the balance. We can use the capillarity that we want from the top level drivers to the clubs, with the federations and all this kind of stuff that we have right now, to try to attract those drivers from the clubs to the top level. So a kind of journey for them. So I think we can do that, and the live streaming, the marketing and the promotion in that area with a good live would be a key point in that way. Yeah.
Nick, I know you don't like to talk about it, But I think you may have started your motorsport broadcast career in Formula One.
Yeah, I didn't. I literally did serve no apprenticeship and lucked into Formula One. First thing I ever did was my first day doing any sort of broadcasting was the paddock at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. So realistically, it's been all downhill since then. But
it all went downhill after you made Michael Schumacher cry. That's right.
That is true. Yeah.
That used to be a good story, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I've got other ones. There's the water fight in Canada, and that's always quite good. On a serious note, actually, picking up on something which you guys said, now I'm not sure whether I think it's something we need to push very much as far as the marketing, and we talk about idols. Accessibility of RC is unique. There is no other motorsport which everyone can compete on, no matter what your ability or in some way what your disability is. I mean, I don't know whether you saw the clip from the Silver State last week, where there was a guy who was actually driving the car with a mouth pipe, who was a wheelchair user. And obviously, I remember the first club meeting I went to. There was a guy who used to race in our club back in the mid-'80s who'd had a speedway accident and was in a wheelchair. I mean, obviously, we have no barrier of age, we have no barrier of sex, we have no barrier of abilities, we have no barrier. Let's be honest about this. In motorsport, we have no barrier to weight either, which obviously counts out a lot of people. So I think that's the other thing I would push out to the public, because I think that's a very, very good message at the moment. If you want to go racing and you don't meet perhaps some of the more obvious visual imagery of a racing driver, you can go RC racing.
Yes, all are welcome.
That kind of happened a little bit to me in my formative years in RC, because back when I was a kid, I did a bit of 100cc go-karting, and I competed reasonably well at club level. I was a mid-pack driver in junior karts, but it got to a stage where there were two issues, really. The first one was that my dad didn't have the money to pour into putting me through karting and trying to form a very unlikely career as a racing driver. But secondly, I was a little bit too heavy. There was all these kids racing around in go-karts with tons and tons of lead on the back of their seat to get their car and driver up to minimum weight. And I had no lead on the back of my seat, and I had the minimum amount of fuel required to finish the race, and I was still overweight. So, yeah, there's none of that problem in RC.
Yeah, of course. I think RC Motorsport Europe reflects exactly that's the meaning of you say, Nick. It's the most accessible motorsport that you can see right now could be the RC, and I think it's the promotion, or at least to tell to the people that this is true, this is a fact. I think is good when you can see new drivers on the local clubs. So the infrastructure of the structure of the national federation must be there to support that and to explain and to tell them that this is a way to go. So I think it's
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about all of this, we're trying to talk about the pinnacle of RC, as well as welcoming everyone. Maybe even I could take part, possibly only at beginner club. No, Nick says no. He's seen me have a go. It doesn't work.
There is actually a global ban on too much beard. So
right, yeah, probably get caught in the transmitter potentially. But Javier, do you take some inspiration from the likes of Dorna, the kind of commercial, or the idea of promoting in a more forward-thinking and less amateurish way?
Yeah, I could get a lot of positive feedback, because I'm a fan of MotoGP, and really I'm interested in what the FIM did together with Dorna in the way to promote motorbikes. And also, one of the points that is the best way for me is the cooperation that we have between federation and also with manufacturers. And this and also interesting for me together talking about classes, the journey that the new riders has from the beginning, when I started with the small bikes, together with the national cups, the Red Bull Rookies Cup, and then we have Moto3, Moto2, and MotoGP. So it's a kind of journey. So this is something that we can learn about how to make this kind of journey for the drivers. Because I could see so many times in my section, for example, in 1.8 on road, in the beginning, a kit is so complicated. If you start with 1.8 car, with the engine, set up the car, it have multiple kind of the kind of grip that you have on the track. So it's so complicated. So I think it's my inspiration in that way is this journey, and also of course the, let's say, bubble of marketing and the cooperation between federation and brands could be good.
Mark, you're predominantly an electric driver, but in the nitro classes we already have B Euros, kind of a sub-class. What do you feel about different levels, kind of rankings, and maybe splitting the top drivers from the kind of club level drivers? Do you see any benefit to that?
Yeah, it's always a difficult one, that, because historically I've been an advocate of saying that everyone should race in the same class. You know, if I go to an event in electric on road, you have modified classes and stock categories. Quite often you'll get drivers that compete in both, which I'm not sure whether that's something that should really be encouraged, because essentially then you're just losing granularity in the competitive field. So yeah, I was always someone that said, oh, everyone should race the same class, we should all race modified, and then that's the best way to see who's the best. But also, yeah, latterly there's a strong argument for categorization based on performance, power, speed, to enable, as Javier has just said, to enable people coming through and developing to really get a handle on how to drive the car, how to build and prepare it, how to set it up, rather than coming in and having what are mini marvels of engineering sat on the table in front of them and not having a clue what to do with it. And then when it gets on the track, it's far too quick and far too powerful for them to have a hope in hell of controlling. So I like the idea that Javier just mentioned about a progressive ladder, and you know, the use of entry-level classes, mid-level classes, to guide people from that entry-level club race right through regional, national, and then international competition. There's got to be a progression curve that people can see that is visible, so that people don't become overwhelmed with what lays in front of them and become disillusioned, and in the end they walk away because they feel as though it's beyond their capabilities. And that's what we need to try and prevent, really. We need to keep hold of people and nurture their enthusiasm, and I think to do that you need some kind of ladder.
Nick, how do we do that? You've commentated on some of the most amazing World Championship finals, right through to the equivalent of a club race. How do we do that and do some kind of distribution of the media coverage? Or do we?
Well, I mean, obviously we've had a couple of events where the A and the B's have been combined together, but the B element has been selected on after qualifying effectively. If you want people to enter the Moto3 version, the Moto2 version rather than MotoGP version, you've got to give them an incentive and a reason to do it. What does that championship mean? It's not just you're not as fast as the top 16 guys who've turned up to the event. As far as coverage is concerned, the more A finals, the better it is. When you're watching, it doesn't really matter if it, as for a race is concerned, if it's the top 8 people in overall, the top 8 people in the middle sector, they can each provide a decent race. But to get people to want to enter those other levels is the key thing. Because at the moment, everyone wants to go, right, I'm going to enter the overall main event. Now, obviously, for example, within 12th race, there's a natural split, which is modified and stock. However, there's no rules about who's allowed to go into each one. So if you actually then say, right, here's a seeding list, here are the top 36 people, you have to go into modified. There's a middle ground of about 20 you can choose, and everyone else goes into stock. But of course, both of them end up with a European champion. And I agree with Mark. I don't think you should enter both. But that has been used to swell numbers in the past. But but it needs to be a progression as well. And obviously, as we have seen, you get in that, and then you get up to the modified side of things. It obviously with the other class, it's a little bit more difficult because if you say, right, we're going to have a chassis-based or an engine-based progression in the European Championships, that needs to be mimicked into club racing as well, where there aren't always the numbers to fill all the individual subgroups. So that's the thing you need to work out on.
Yeah,
I fully agree. I think it's one of the key points, and sometimes EFRA couldn't put the good rule on that. Is try to avoid to in this progression to come back. I mean, so imagine again the example of the MotoGP. If you cannot see in your mind, you cannot see Marc Marquez come back to Moto3. So it's a kind of journey, and also we can include the variable of the money. So we can create a cheap class in the beginning for local and national level, and then the progression about the last equipment or the last motor and batteries or even engines in other way. So sometimes I have to say that sometimes if I made this kind of mistake, create a new scale and automatically all the top drivers moving into this scale, and automatically the rules are on the limits, and automatically the class is on the limit. And I think this is not that we need. So it's create these kind of different levels of in the same class, because sometimes with the same car we can create different levels. So it's moving at small things like okay, it depends if it's gas or electric. You can play with some key points on the car.
Javier, with what you say there, you just mentioned that you can't imagine Marc Marquez ever going back and racing in Moto3. I think the difference to be noted there is that in top-level professional motorsport, MotoGP, F1, etc., a driver will progress through the levels, get to the top level, the Premier class, as Marc Marquez has done, and once he gets to a point where he's too old or not fast enough anymore, he'll simply retire, and he'll be in his mid to late 30s when he does that, I would imagine. In RC, you have people that will spend most of their adult life pursuing the hobby. So if you take someone like me, for example, I kind of progressed up through the ranks of club, regional, national, international level racing. I got to a reasonably high level internationally in 1/12 scale, but I feel as though now I've gone over the crest and I'm starting to drop back down a little bit. So what happens when I'm no longer good enough, fast enough, young enough to race in that Premier class is there needs to be an avenue and a way for me to then drop that down a level to race in that lower category. So I think there is, whilst the ladder and the progression idea is a good one, there needs to be provision for it to work in both ways potentially, I think.
That's a good point. So when you are not fast enough, so try to go or to come back or try to do some other again. And I don't want to say 40 plus races, but it's a kind of something like that. Yeah, create something. Yeah, and talking about high level competition, I think this is kind of progression. And then after the progression, I think we have to think about something. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Comments are coming in, and it's fantastic to see you all getting involved. Geraint Williams just said 50 plus Mark Stiles. So
I'm some way off that yet, but yeah.
Mark Stiles is fast enough to continue in the pinnacle of 112, I think.
Oh yeah, many NA final at top level alongside the pros.
I don't know if anyone saw me in modified at the 112th Worlds last year, they might dispute that, but yeah. Yeah. One thing I will say is that I'm closer to 50 than I am to 18 in terms of age. So yeah. I'm definitely over the hill now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the maths of that.
Yeah.
One area just to briefly touch on before we move over to talking about the case for qualifying racing is we talked about Dorna and we talked about kind of approaching things in a more commercially minded way. That's one of the things that EFRA is now doing. We're working much more closely with associate members, and we're actually looking at with commercial awareness and community awareness in equal parts and that we know that our link to the industry is the associate members, and we know that our only link to races is the federations and how important they are. So one of the changes we have, that's a bit odd, is you can see some heads there, but you can see we're now publishing associate member news as well as federation news and promoting it as well. I think that's an important thing to do. Would you say, Javier?
Yeah, I think is as you said. For us, when I starting with this kind of project, with this time of development plan, we are thinking that we have three main part in that area. So associate member, the industry in general, the industry for us is associate member, but we are inviting to the other companies to join us. Also the other part is the federations. So for us, together with the organizer, but we don't have to forget the organizer that sometimes support all this infrastructure like tracks and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, for us, it's important to these two groups, together with EFRA, of course, but these two groups is to keep the visibility in any way. And because, and I say many times in other meetings, the capillarity, I think this is my word, but we have contact with the industry, so we can create a great umbrella in order to create, for example, this kind of journey with classes, so we can promote with the industry a kind of, let's say, new car, new class or whatever. But also on the other hand, we have to move everything to the clubs, to the local clubs, to the national federation. And in that area, we have the federation that they can promote in the local clubs, in the local level, regional, national. So, and this is the final contact with the drivers. Okay, we have another contact. This is like this kind of live streaming, but we have to work together. I think it's time to work together because it's impossible that the people who are inside EFRA or inside the one federation, even the industry cannot make the thing for themselves. I think we have to work together, and the things that the EFRA is offering is this kind of umbrella to work together in order to create something big, something more accurate, or something more spectacular, if you want to say.
Jason Williams suggests that the average age at UK national club racing would be 35 to 40 plus. I don't know if we have obviously two members here who've raced in the UK. I don't know, Javier, you'd be able to speak for Spain, the kind of average age of racers at club racing in Spain as well, but I guess it's not far off. It is not as young as we would like.
Yeah, exactly. If you can see the average, even it depends on the class, because I can see, because I normally visit different classes during the year. I hope mainly next year could be we come back to the normal again. But sometimes, for example, in 1/8 buggy, I could see a lot of kids in the local races, regional races. Even if you go to the Euros, you can see 20, 25 kids on the race. Even Carlos Gomez, the second chairman of 1/8 buggy, create a final just for them. So it depends on the classes, but of course, if you can see the average in general of the RC, I think is higher that we need. That's the reason we are working closely inside the development plan with, okay, we can talk later, but RC and me could be the key point to attract new generation on the RC, because, okay, we leave the federation, EFRA, it's a kind of formality, so we are creating European races, formal races, but on the other hand, we can move into the more informal things to attract kids. And I think this a kind of brand, RC and me, could be the great point to work on that.
Nick, why do you think, well, first of all, would you agree? I guess the 1/12 events we've covered have had an older pit than, for instance, 1/8 buggy. Why do you think that is?
I think that it's the visual accessibility. I think that people who come from bashing, or people who see ready to run cars, on the whole will get an electric or a petrol powered off-road car, and so they'll naturally gravitate as their first port of call into either 10th or 8th off-road. A few of them will get touring cars. It's a little bit less on the RTR side than it was, and then as you get a bit older, you tend to either drift or have stayed in 12. But obviously the main place you go when you're older is large scale. That's where I intend going very soon. Reason being, because your eyes go, and when the cars are much bigger, you can see the parts, the worrying thing for me is when we come back from lockdown and I start racing again, I'm going to have to take glasses with me the first time ever because I've reached that age. It's like sitting there going, I sat there I can't see anymore. So I'm thinking that 1/5 that keeps me feeling young for a few more years. But no, I think it's how you come into the class, how you go through the class. I think there is a progression. But yeah, I would absolutely say I think there's normally enough, if not 2 finals of kids or under 16s at least in the 1/8 Euros, and some of the other championships you don't see anybody at all who's under 15, 16, and most people, as you say, have actually gone through that part. As we all know the traditional progression of an RC race. You start as a kid, you race for a few years, you discover women in your first job, and you come back to it, and that's what happens. Either to bring your child or get away from your child, you come back to it and you carry on going. So it's that part, and I think that's when people then perhaps look at diversifying out and look at the other classes. But yeah, I mean, I think that the key thing we need to do, and it's difficult because we're fighting against so many other things, is feed the bottom of that pile, is feed in the 7 to 12-year-olds, 7 to 15-year-olds, and get them engaged with what is obviously the most successful form of racing. So
would this be a good segue into qualifying racing and making the whole thing more exciting?
This qualifying racing is obviously it's been tried in a couple of places. The idea obviously is if you have taken part in an international race since about 1987, you have taken part in what's called EFRA qualifying. A few little tweaks, but effectively, ever since we've had proper A and B transponders, we've been able to time the cars accurately over a group. So what people decided to do was they would have a 5-minute or a 7-minute or a 3-minute qualifying session where effectively they were running around on their own, theoretically only racing the clock and hoping to avoid all the other cars or be marshal passed by the referee. So it's for the race themselves, they're sitting there going, right, I've got my 7 minutes or my 5 minutes, I'm going to run around as fast as I can and I'll get my time at the end. And as we all know, at the end of the day, you then get a printout of the list of where you are in that particular round. And I think now in every single class now it's your best number of scores out of so many rounds. I don't think there's any single FTDs yet, there might be one. But anyway, so that's how it's been done for the last, ever since 35 years. There is a couple of problems with that. The first problem is that say you're going to go and do a big event and you tell your mates or your friends, I'm going to do this event, you can see me on this live stream. After they've finished being wowed by the excitement of the cars going around and the fantastic camera work and commentary they're getting, they're going to kind of go, well, what's going on? You're just driving around. Why are you just driving around? Because unless they watch on finals day, you're just driving around. It makes no sense. You're racing thin air, you're racing ether, and where's the tension in that? I mean, I have sat through full days of commentary of qualifying events, and I'm wanting to pull my own teeth out by the end of it because nothing has happened of any note because there's no excitement. Yes, some people have done particularly well. Yep. And I had to think about this, and if you say you're an avid 1/10 racer and you're pretty good, but you're not in the A final. So you've gone down to the European Championships, you spent 6 days in Spain, which is lovely. You've travelled a day either side, you've been away for 8 days. At the end of those 8 days, you've done 10 minutes of racing. Yep. That's all. Your entire total amount of racing is 10 minutes. And this is RC racing we do. I don't work for RC qualifying TV. It's RC racing. People do this to race. They don't do it to trundle around against the clock. But that's what we're all forced into doing by this concept that that's the only way it's being done. Now, my suggestion is that we change the qualifiers into races. Now, it doesn't affect everything prior to the start of qualifying is the same. So you still have your control practice and your time practice, and you still see the cars on their 3 fastest laps. So you still have a rough adjustment of where people are. But rather than us all going off one by one in our heats, each heat is a race. And you get a result at the end of the race, and that is still your time, and you're still racing against everybody else. So if you win the first heat in a 10 lap in 5 minutes 30, you're still going to be qualifying behind someone in that round who finished second in the third heat with 11 laps. So it's not a points-based system. It's still at the end of the day you get a listing as you were before to keep it as close as what we have. But at the end of the day, you're racing every single time, and therefore, you get to learn how to race. Racing is a lot more fun than qualifying. Let's be honest about this, and it works way better for public consumption. If you have a race every time, every race is important, every race is exciting. And if we look at the other elements of sports, which are karting, which is similar to RC in many ways, they have heats. Those heats are races before they have a pre-final and a final. Rallycross, which of course is what the whole of the RC scoring system was initially based off. Rallycross has heats, which are races, and then finals. We're the only people who insist on just qualifying the whole time and never racing when we have this round by round system. And I personally think that that is it make a better spectacle. It's more fun, and you get more racing, which is what we're here to do. You don't just drive all around Europe or all around the country to get 10 minutes, 5 minutes racing in some classes, perhaps 20 minutes if you don't bump up in others. And it's just more active. Now, that's the completely positive spin on it. The downside might be that because you're racing, you might not get your ultimate best time. So you might miss out on a couple of points here and there. But then again, it might happen to somebody else. It's the same down to the luck element. It's the same thing as you can always get involved in someone's accident, even when you're just doing time qualifying. You can always have someone who's awkward to get past when they should be letting you through on time qualifying. But if you're racing, at least you've actually had an experience. And it looks better on TV.
Obviously, we want to hear Javier's thoughts on this, but it'd be good to get another racer's point of view. Mark, if you got any thoughts on that first?
Yeah, I like the idea in principle.
Okay.
I want to go racing more, and I completely agree with what Nick's saying, in that you go to the Euros, you spend 4 days away from home, and you come home, and even if you make the A final, you might have only raced for 15 minutes during that 4 days. So certainly from a consumer experience or a driver experience perspective, I think it would be enhanced if there was more racing happening. But also from a media promotions coverage perspective, there's more stuff to get interested in for people watching if they know that what they're watching is two cars having a race rather than two cars trying not to hit each other and set a fast time. The only question I've got relating to what Nick's just described is, if the intention would be to have qualifying races as you've described them, Nick, but then at the end of that round or whatever, everyone is still put into an order of how many laps and what split time they've done, do you not think that might mean if you've got the top heat at a Euros, whilst they're all told it's a race, do you not think that they might just jump out of each other's way to not impede each other anyway? So by default, you might end up going back to it being a boring qualifying round.
I think I've yet to see an event where we've got 10 RC racers to cooperate with each other like that. It's a nice idea. I mean, there's every chance, yes, if you've got teammates at the top level, that you'd expect them to do it, much as you would expect them to do it at the top level of motorsport teammates in any event. But then interestingly, the thing I think is you don't necessarily, if you are perhaps just having an easy ride, I don't know about you, but when it actually works and you're racing, you go quicker because you just do. You have that push. Now, obviously, it means you're more on the edge and things can go wrong, but you've had the actual racing experience. I would think, you will see some team orders, but that's great. Team orders are fantastic for the coverage. It's great. Again, it adds more intrigue. And realistically, if we're talking about the guys in the top heats doing it, well, they're going to be the top anyway. So, the fact is that, we're just trying to find a more exciting way of setting the final positions. I don't think we're not looking for a way that's going to dramatically upset them, if that says. I think you'll find that if you do it both ways, there'll only be a small change, and the small change will be you'll find that certain drivers are actually better at racing and certain drivers are better at going at the clock. But on the whole, your top drivers are good at both.
Javier, any thoughts?
Yeah, of course. I think it's so interesting what you say, guys. Because if you divide it, in my mind, you can see the races. You can see a line. Part of the first part is practice, qualifying, and racing. So that's the complete event. Definitely, we need practice. Of course, we need practice to set up the car, to set up to see the grip or whatever things, and of course, we need racing. The thing that we have to improve definitely is the qualifying. Is the main, but because most of the time spent is in qualifying, and then maybe sometimes we spend 2 days in qualifying and then 1 day in racing. So I think we have to find a way to use that time of qualifying to create more interest, to create more spectacular races. I agree with the idea in the working group to create this kind of qualify with racing. So the combination of this this kind of way to qualify could be fine. I don't know. I cannot say exactly what could be the perfect way, but looking for that, exploring that area, I think is for EFRA. It could be great. Try to move the qualifying area into the racing area. So spend more time racing, less time qualifying. And of course, time of practice. Always we will need time of practice because time of practice, it depends on the class. Sometimes we need more or less practice. It's according to the class. But definitely, I think this is the way to go. And I think we will wait. Depend on the class, of course. Always we have different tips or different ticks in different classes. But I think that's the future. If you can see Formula One, that's the experiment that we are going to get this year. I think it's 2 races, right, Mark?
3.
2 races that the qualifying racing. Yeah. So I think we are looking to see this kind of experiment. But definitely, I think this is the way to go. And of course, for the media, it's so spectacular. And I agree with you in the way, Nick, that you say you are improving when you are racing. Yeah, because sometimes qualifying needs another skills like concentration or something like that, but sometimes you are faster when you're racing. So I think this a kind of this a kind of feeling that you have as an ex-driver in the past.
I think it's interesting to note what you just said about the qualifying races that F1 are going to trial this year, because if you ask around, pretty much all the teams don't like it very much. Most of the drivers don't like it, but it's being done for the show, for the promotion of the sport, to give the general public who are watching it on TV or at the circuit more things to be interested in. So I think there is an element of there will be pushback from racers and potentially manufacturers if you try and change the formats of RC events considerably. However, it might be something that's deemed as a requirement to promote the hobby and the sport of RC racing. So I think people might need to look at the bigger picture and try and understand that it's not necessarily just for them, it's for everyone. And if people can understand what EFRA and what the federations are trying to do by pushing qualifying more into a racing format, then maybe they'll embrace it more. Because I think there is probably going to be some negative feedback when the suggestion's made.
I think it's the show is one of the key points here when you want to move qualifying to racing area. But also I think it is in this point we have to go in that area. I understand that sometimes maybe drivers, because it's more exacting or more risky business even for the manufacturers to put together all cars, and as you can see in Formula One or other sport, the start, the grid could be the most stressful point for drivers and even teams. But definitely I think the show is a new part, not new, but it's a part that EFRA is considered as a key point, because the other part is to promote the show. So I think it's good to know that.
Guys, keep your comments coming in. The comment section is flying. Some of the comments are really long and detailed as well, and I'm trying to check them out before reading them out and figure out whatever. But everyone's got some really good ideas. Lots of people basically in agreement, referencing things like Reedy Race. Pierre Ronnefelk says RC race. RC qualifying is so boring for spectators. And Connie is in agreement, saying that referencing in large scale, that's something that's done quite a lot. I think various race series have tried it as well, so it's kind of a good way to experiment. David Urbar really likes the idea of qualifying racing, something like seed the next round according to the race results from the last round. Only chance to get the top heat. Second round is to win the first. From then on, you always have 2 bump ups, so some kind of bump up.
Yeah, ideas. Sorry, Matty. At this time, you can read the comments, and also I have in mind to comment before, but I forget it. we have to be a format unstable. So unstable for people. For sometimes we cannot create a system that's so difficult to understand. Because if we want to promote the show at the same time that we are racing, people have to understand what we are doing in an easy way. I mean.
Indeed, yeah. Vesely says he doesn't think that the racing format is the problem with the hobby, or why less people have got involved. It's not the first step in the experience. It's the availability of tracks and people to guide newcomers around. So yeah, it's more about, you know, how do I get involved in RC? You know, where I live, and you know, it is a very, very key point. Very key point indeed.
Yeah,
there's a few people have said that pro drivers and idols don't care about club racing. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Is that your experience, Mark?
Not really. I mean, I'm not a pro driver. I guess you could describe me as kind of one of the higher level drivers at national level. Club level racing is a staple of any RC racer's agenda. You know, take Alex Hagberg as an example. You know, he's a professional RC driver. He lives in the UK predominantly now, and he goes to club races up and down the UK all the time. And the reason he does that is both to practice his driving, develop his setups and his technical knowledge and understanding of his cars, but also to be there as the figurehead of X-Ray and his other sponsors. So, you know, he is the kind of customer service representative at the racetrack. So, you know, the manufacturers don't sponsor drivers just to go to big races and win big trophies. They sponsor them to support paying customers and help those customers get the most out of their products. So I don't think pro drivers are dismissive of club level racing at all, really, because they should know better than that, and they should know that actually it's the amateurs and the paying customers that are giving them a profession and a career,
paying their wages. Indeed,
exactly that. Yeah.
So I think obviously you guys have joined us and it's been great. One final subject that I'd like to touch on with you guys before you go. I know Mark has to get back home because he's obviously at work, as we can see in the office. Very grand office you have there as well, Mark.
Yeah, this isn't actually my office. Yeah, this is our marketing suite at the Mercedes factory in Brackley.
I was actually thinking, how do we? There'll be people watching thinking, yeah, it's a green screen. Yeah, you know, it's just a. But
hang on.
Here we go.
Don't start the engine, Mark, please.
How's Valtteri's car?
Yeah, it's Valtteri's W09 from 2018, this one. So.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. There we go. So, yeah, genuinely not a green screen. The importance of nationals is more important than ever. Now we don't have international racing, or with a year or such a drought of international racing. Javier, nationals they're everything we have right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the national is the point to start again. I think is definitely in EFRA, together in the last meeting that we had with the federations, that most of them was there, try to explain the same thing that we're talking today, also to try to get open-minded in order to be ready for this plan, and also to get the feedback of the federation. One of the key points that the EFRA will support the nationals anyway. So with the federation news that you Matt create or the PR department create, we want to support the nationals as much as possible from the EFRA side, because we know that the races will start again from national. We can see a lot of countries, plenty of nationals in different classes, and this kind of national must be promoted by EFRA in any way, because, for example, here in 1/8 of road buggy here in Spain, a lot of people could be interested to see Robert Badge and Canas fighting for the lead in that time that we don't have international races. So I think we must, we can, I don't want to say can, we must promote nationals in any way.
I think there's a key takeaway from all this, and that's that everyone wants to see the RC hobby promoted and see it grow and flourish. And the best way to do that is for everyone to do their little bit. So, share things on Facebook and social media, publish photos, videos of what you're doing, because that's the easiest and best way of getting it out there. So, what Matt and Nick and the guys can do within EFRA, yes, it has a good reach, but there's no better reach than thousands of existing RC races and enthusiasts showing the world what they're doing at weekends. So when people do start to go back to racetracks, be it a club race, a national race, whatever, just put a post up saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm doing this weekend. This is what it looks like. This is a car going around the track," and you never know how far that could reach. How many videos of RC races and little clips of a 1/8 rallycross car doing a pit stop. How many of those have gone viral? And it's a lot of that happens purely by chance. So if you put more of that stuff out, then there's a higher probability that it's going to go viral and have a much larger reach. I think that's the responsibility for that lies on all of our shoulders. It's not just the federations and the governing bodies.
100%. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Another area that plays into that is potentially, which Javier and myself will discuss a bit later on, is House of RC, which is a nice initiative as well for sharing your racing news and being able to work with the data. So many questions coming. Vasily has some advice for you, Mark.
Oh.
Make sure the front wheel nut is not broken. Simon Kersbrook, he's suggesting 2-day city races. Now, city races, obviously, races in public areas, and I guess he's talking about a showpiece event with media coverage, some kind of exclusive showpiece that could be put on in the city or a centre. I suppose the pinnacle of what we had was and we always go back to the Worlds in Milton Keynes because that was kind of that's what we want. It was this is exactly how we want to do it.
From my point of view, I think is different classes. We can work with different classes in that kind of event because it's more easy to create an event like 112 in the mall or in the other hand, because some others needs more requirements in terms of tracks and security measures and something like that. But yeah, I think it's as Simon said, and hello Simon, I want to see you soon on the tracks again. But it's another part of that project. So come back to the public areas to show what we are doing. Even not necessarily need to be an international event, a pinnacle. Okay, it could be great to see a international event like Europe or World Championship in a big area. But if it's not possible, we can go with this kind of project like RC and me to go to the schools, public areas. So all this kind of stuff we can do at the same time together with the federation and promote this kind of races. So I think it's a lot of things to do, but this way to go to the public areas is something on planet. Yeah.
I think it'd be nice as well if, obviously it's somewhat limited for a lot of RC categories, but I've been all over the place racing RC cars, but very few of the places I've been have been that enticing or exotic. Usually it's a warehouse or a sports hall in some godforsaken town up and down the UK or across Europe. Whereas hold a Euros half an hour's drive from Disneyland or in a sunny beach location, so that someone like me, I've got a young family now, so the time that I'm going to have to commit to the RC hobby is probably going to be quite limited in future years. But if there was a European Championships in a sunny location, I think a few years ago there was a 12 scale Euros in Gran Canaria. It was in the springtime, so the weather was quite good, and people treated it as a springtime holiday. So they went and they raced RC cars for 3 days. They took their wife and kids, and then they stayed on for a week afterwards and sat on the beach or by the pool. And so they combined the cost of travelling to that event with their family holiday essentially. So it made it a more attractive event to go and compete at. Locations are pretty key, both for attracting competitors to go and race in these events, but also taking it to places where there's high concentrations of the public, which is kind of what we did at Milton Keynes for the 12th Worlds last year. That was the objective of that was to take RC to a place where there's a very high footfall, so that lots of people got to see a glimpse of it. Whereas if it had been in a sports hall somewhere, or even a permanent track in Europe somewhere, no one ever gets to see it other than those who are watching online or who are competing at the event itself. Take it to the masses and go public. But that comes added expense, because public places are generally quite expensive to go to. So.
The location of venues, I think, is a key point also, that we're working inside of the live coverage, but also in the other working groups together to how to select the right venue for the right class. I think it's a thing that we have to do, not just selecting with the normal procedure that we have in EFRA. So open-minded, and this is something also that we want to talk with the federation deeply of how to select the right venue to the right class.
Completely, yeah. And I think before we let these guys go, Nick, what would be your ultimate location, both obviously for your personal experience of covering an event, which I know is very much at the forefront of your and my mind when we go and cover an event, but what ticks all the boxes in terms of getting out there and spreading the word and being a cool location?
Well, we should try and have a bit of the seafront at Monaco, I think, during the Grand Prix weekend. That'd be the best place.
Yeah. It's
very, very difficult. The actual ideal place is to piggyback onto a large motorsport event, because the people who are walking past, I'm not saying the Grand Prix is too difficult, but there are plenty of events with 30 or 40,000 people around Europe who they're all motorsport fans. So you're preaching to the conversion to begin with, and I don't think it matters if it's a motorcycle event, a motocross event, or a car event, but there is finding a way of coexisting with those over a race weekend would be the best promotion, but with logistical issues as well.
Got you. Yep. Mark, any obviously you've done the Pinnacle in the shopping centre in Milton Keynes. Are you actually doing any racing yourself at the moment, or is it what is the situation for you?
So to be honest, I haven't raced an RC car since the 112 scale Euros last March.
Wow.
So it's been over a year since I raced properly, because really 12 scale is the only category I race these days. I dabble a little bit occasionally in 1/10 buggy and made a few guest appearances with an electric touring car over the last few years, but generally speaking 112 scale electric is all I do, and it's a class that's only raced indoors across most of Europe and certainly in the UK. And we haven't had any indoor events for over a year. I think there was the first kind of club events, and there was an on-road podcast series started up, had their first round at the weekend just gone. So yeah, really it's only it's the very early stages of things getting going again in the UK. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a pain on my hair when you say that more than 1 year without racing, Mark.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, and now I've got other things that to use up my time. Small children to name one. Yeah,
and a small timing bicycle, I think. Is it?
Yeah, I do a bit of cycling, but not competitively. But yeah, I think going back to Nick's original comment about we go all over the country or all over Europe, supposedly to race, but then actually we don't race. If there's one thing that would get me enthused again and make me want to go RC racing, it's potentially a change of format, so that I can travel for hours and hours to get to a track and know that I'm going to spend the weekend racing rather than just driving my car around the track.
Perfect.
That's a great bet.
I think that's a great summary.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Mark, and thanks for joining us, Nick. We'll say goodbye to you guys. It's been great having you. Mark, you can go off and design some more parts for the car behind you. Nick, you have a yoga class or some watercolour perhaps.
Who knows? Who knows what I'll be doing?
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for your time.
Cheers.
But you guys don't go anywhere because we're still here. We've still got lots to get through. We've got so many comments to get through. Good feedback there from the guys, Javier.
Great. Always is very important to get feedback for the outside. Sometimes I'm working in your ideas or in the working group ideas, but it's necessary to get feedback for the outside because sometimes a small idea could create a good way to go.
Yes.
So, definitely. I think we need this kind of feedback. Even with the comments, I cannot read the comments. I will do later. But it's very important. Even the good comments, even the bad comments, I don't care about that. It's just to see exactly what is the best way to go.
Yeah, I think two points that stick out to me. Gilbert Dognon saying each federation has to work harder to promote our hobby, which is really not well known. And whilst that could be true, I think a large part of what we're doing, or we know that we have to provide the federations with more tools from our work, and by working closer together we can actually help the federations do that, right?
Exactly. I think I said I think 3 times the word, but I don't want to repeat that this kind of capillarity. But in the last meeting with the federation, we realized that we have to change the way to work together. I think it's not just that EFRA says something and then this is get by the federation. It's a kind of ecosystem to work together. And the main thing that we can do is to create tools, as you said, Matt, in order to provide videos, in order to provide this kind of tools necessary to promote the RC in general, because they have the close contact with the organizer. That I want to remind again the organizer as another main part of this community. So they have contact with them, they have contact with the drivers, and this kind of group work is necessary to get feedback to EFRA.
Completely, yeah. And another,
I cannot forget because I was in mind, but EFRA is not the final part. So on the top we have IFMAR. So we can cooperate with IFMAR as much as possible in order to create. Because the really pinnacle is IFMAR. So EFRA is a part of IFMAR, and we have to collaborate with IFMAR in order to provide and also tools for them. So we have just in the middle, and this is a kind of our job.
Of course. For the people that are saying why everybody wants qualifying racing, why are we still talking about qualifying racing? Just do it. Like, people are saying that. And I think there's good reasons why you can't just flick a switch and change everything. Yeah. You can't do that, can you? Because it's a democratic organisation, and we have to represent what all the races want.
Yeah, but on the other hand, of course, we have a democratic federation, and everybody has to say something, and all the federation have to decide. But on the other hand, we have to realize that when we make some change. This change, if we want to be effective, must go also to the nationals, or we have to go in different levels. So we have to make sure that we are doing the right steps. It's not just to make the right step to create a very good race. We are not here for that. We are here to promote the RC in general. So we have to think about how to improve the RC, not to improve just one race. I'm not interested. Okay, I'm interested to create a great European Championship. But I'm worried for kids, and we have to keep the balance. We have to keep that line to create a great European Championship, a great races, a spectacular promotion, a spectacular coverage. But at the same time, we are looking for kids. That is, in my opinion, at this time, the most important part we have to take care.
So, are we saying that European Championships couldn't run drastically different from a national championships? Because they have to be in some way similar, so that each nation has experience of that way of running, or could they be vastly different?
Well, I'm the opinion, but this is my personal opinion. Maybe another guy can discuss or can make another argument for that. But in my mind, the national championship is the last step to the international level. So we have to be as most close possible to the international rules. So one of the objectives in EFRA that you can see, or in the video that EFRA explains, you can see that is to create rules, international rules, the same rules for everybody. So I understand that maybe in the regional level, on the local level, we have to forget the sometimes complicated rules to participate in the international level. But when you go to the national level, well, 70, 80%, 85% must be the same, because the next step would be goes to the Euros. And if you go to the Euros and you can see a complete different race, well, it could be a little bit hard.
Okay, so there is some kind of unity that we have to do this.
Yeah, I think in the national level must be close. I agree that we have to go exactly the same, but must be close, because if not, the next step for this kind of journey for drivers go to the international event, that could be a little bit hard.
But I think this is a good point to recap on the development plan, because for people that think, this is just talk and maybe change won't happen, this genuinely is, we are seeing change happening. This is, this has never happened before. What we are doing, where we've managed to push things and move things forward, I think it is exciting times. The problem is so much of it is done internally. It's really hard to communicate every bit of change that is happening within EFRA.
Yeah, we have to realize that it's very hard to promote something if you don't have races. One of the most important tasks, or the main task, is to make international races. We have 1.5 years without international races.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to say that we are doing something if you don't do races. But at the same time, we are in the most difficult part of this project, that is working on the background. Most people can say, okay, that we cannot do nothing. We are doing the most difficult things. So the most difficult things means work in the background. So working with the associate members, making meetings, working with the federation. So one of the most exciting things that I heard in the last meeting in the federation meeting is a word revolution, made by Javier from Spain. I mean, so yes. When I say revolution, it's very important. I don't want to say a revolution and everything must be put in different places, but it's a kind of revolution. We are working in that area. And of course, in the first year, from 19th of March, that we realized our brand, when we talk together exactly in the same position and we say, this is not just a logo, this is not, a lot of work is behind that. Now people can see, especially in the marketing, in the PR department, and I want today, Matt, that I would like to thanks to your company, thanks to you for the work that you are doing in the communication, in the marketing. I think is one of the key points or key areas is to create a new PR department, and you are behind of that PR department with the more engagement to EFRA. And I thank you to you and also to Nick in the coverage that will come. But in this first stage, in this first step, communication, marketing, and to promote RC as a whole, I think is thanks to you in a big part.
Well, you are very kind, but it wouldn't happen without the vision coming from inside EFRA to make these opportunities a possibility, which is a great thing. But for me, the most exciting thing is how open EFRA is becoming. How we want to bring people literally inside EFRA, which is what this is called, which is a fantastic thing. And we have a new series called EFRA Explains. We released a clip very recently, which the explanation of the Constitution, which is a very old document, but it hasn't changed, and it's still as important now as it was back then. But to put a modern spin on it and explain why these things and how they came about, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, the episodes of EFRA Explains is a kind of put in the modern way our base. Sometimes in the last live that we made together, we say that we're here and we have this kind of open-minded because we have a very good base that all the people behind us in the past with Dallas and all the president in the past make a very good base to work on the future. So nothing of that could be possible if you don't have good base. We can create a kind of bubble in the first year, but then nothing, because we have to be consistent. One of the key points of EFRA and Federation is the consistency to promote RC during the last 30, 40 years. Now we have this base, and we are going to get a next step. And for that, to make a step forward, we have to be open-minded. That's impossible to be rigid in that area.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to how open things are going to get, because the next episode of EFRA Explains is about what happens to the money you pay to enter Euros.
Yeah,
exactly what happens with that money.
Exactly. In the episode 1, talking about constitution, I think it's still completely updated, the message that we want to show, with the handbook from the 17th. So because we are doing exactly the same things, promoting RC as a whole, creating international level races. And then the second episode that will come soon is talking about what happened with the money of the entry. Sometimes people misunderstood exactly if all the money that they paid to the federation is just for EFRA and for some special trips, and that's not true. And you can see in the episode what happened with your money when you pay for a Europe, where your money goes, and what happened with that money, because that money is used for the organizer mainly, and to use by the federation, and mainly for the organizer to create a good event and to promote RC.
Exactly.
Now, it could be a good one.
Yeah, completely. And there's a whole series of very similar videos, but you can also suggest subjects you'd like us to cover. All topics are on the table. We intend to show you how decisions are made within EFRA, how you could get involved with EFRA, how you could make a complaint, how you can change things. If you're not happy, you need to get involved, and we'd like to show you how to do it. But if you've also got topics you'd like us to cover, then let us know. Rolef Toombs is saying you should start with explanation videos about what scales and cars are used and the technology that comes with them. Yes, we are planning to do a video about every single class of racing that has a European Championship A. A small kind of pocket guide that says this is how this class works and this is why this class is exciting.
Yep, exactly. We have a lot of ideas on the table, and some of them that we are planning, and this is something that we need federation and associate members to work on. That is a kind of agreement to put some kind of QR code in all the kits that the people can buy in order to promote the federation, or how to race, or what you can do with the kit that you are buying right now. So we can go in that way, and we can do all these things. I think it's amazing in that way. But okay, as I say, the EFRA explain a lot, and you will see that we will see a lot of things that sometimes people don't know about what EFRA is doing.
So if you haven't seen the first episode, you need to go and follow EFRA on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. Give EFRA a follow, and you'll see the new episodes when they appear. Also on Instagram as well. And another subject that is quite close to our hearts, we've been talking with House of RC.
Good.
Very interesting new. Now this is how we can work with people who are doing forward-thinking, exciting things. People from the technology world who put their time into growing RC. This is a perfect resource that we'd be crazy not to tap into.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Connie is a great man, and create a very good tool. In the beginning, we don't know exactly the way to go, but finally I think we found a good way to go, because let's start from the beginning. In my mind, or in our mind, we lose, and everybody's agreeing in this kind of conversation, that we lose the shops, the local shops that normally people go to buy a kit, and this kit go to the track and then affiliated to the track. And the last sentence that you can say in the EFRA episode, so if you join your local club is joined to the National Federation, and you are part of something bigger. So that's the normal procedure. But sometimes with internet, the new technology or something, this kind of stuff, we lose some of the shops. That is a kind of big support in the past. But now the technology brings us the opportunity to connect again drivers, local shops, organizer, federation in a different way with the technology. And I think the House of RC in that area could bring us a very good opportunity to come back with this, to work in this base, connecting drivers, classes, federation, shops. So, yeah, I think we have this conversation with Connie in some meetings and also with federation, and I think we agree that we can explore that way, creating profiles, connecting people from different scale. Maybe in some country, some area, we can see a guy with a kit, another guy with a kit. We can go to the track and connecting with, thanks to House of RC. Yeah. And we are going that way, I think.
I would urge, if you're watching and you haven't checked out House of RC yet, go and take a look at House of RC. If you have a club, if you're just a racer, if you're one of the federations and you haven't checked out House of RC yet, you're missing out. You need to go and take a look. We're also keen to hear what you discover when you go on House of RC as well. All of this is about feedback, but you've got to check it out and let us know your thoughts. But yeah, we are going to be working with Connie during this month. We kind of presented the idea at the federations meeting, and it seems like, you know, we can push forward with some work with Connie.
Yep, I think it's we are working in different projects, so we have to go step by step in all of them. But one of the projects that I like the most, I think, is House of RC could be a way to connect the base, and as I said, and I think is in the next month will be more news. And I hope, as you said in the beginning, that Connie will be in our next live, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. The next Inside EFRA Live episode 3. Hopefully, if Connie can make it, we can feature Connie and talk about how I think technology... Nacho, here's a comment from Nacho Lopez saying that the main problem is that we need money and time to promote the hobby, which is true, but also we get some kind of shortcuts by using modern technology. The fact that, you know, traditionally to talk to lots and lots of people, we had to get airtime on mainstream television. Now we can make connections through technology, which costs so much less through smart linking of technology to the relevant people. Not the whole nation, but just the people who are potentially interested in this hobby, in this sport. Yeah,
money is a key point always. When you want to do something, money is a part of this business. Or any project needs money, of course. But I could see this argument of money in most of the meeting, because believe me that you know that I was in a lot of meetings during the last 12 months. Money is not everything. So the idea is one of the key points. And then how we are going to use the money that we have, the resources that we have. Of course, if we duplicate our resources, you can go more fast, or you can go so far, or far than we have now. But with the money that we have, with the resources that we have, we can do a lot of things. And sometimes it's not just money. It's something that we say to the federation. It's sharing our news, making comments, making suggestions, be part of that, because now we're spending a lot of time, and I would like to remind that all the EFRA members are volunteer. So we are using our volunteer time. If now we are 10 people, 12 people inside the EFRA board, if tomorrow we are 25, we are duplicate the time, the spare time, and we can do a lot of things. So sometimes it's not just money; it's just ideas. If you want to work for the RC and think about inside yourself, what can I do for the RC if I love this kind of sport? And then money will come. I think sometimes money, I consider even in my own business, money as a consequence to do good things. Money will come.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of thinking.
Yeah. The Euro Championship 1/8 Nitro on Road says, yes, we need time more than money to promote the hobby. So yeah, you're right. Time and people and volunteers and completely. Yes.
And I think it could be a good time talking about volunteer or talking about people involved in that, to talk about EFRA ambassadors. I think that's a very I'm impressed, really. I'm impressed when we realized this new about EFRA Ambassador. 24 hours later, I think we have 15 or 16 candidates.
Yeah.
So, wow.
That's
an example that is not just money. We can see a lot of people who want to work for the RC, and this is a great example.
Yes, and working together and pooling all of our skills and time and experience together to get somewhere faster is also very important.
Exactly, and we are going to moving forward with the EFRA Ambassador, and I want to say for these candidates, thank you so much to be confident in this project. And I don't know if we can get all together. Sorry if we have to discard somebody, but hey, just to get the initiative to go to say, hey, I want to help EFRA for me is amazing. And I hope that at the end of the month we can get some news about the EFRA Ambassador, because we are working in the background, because we didn't expect that 16 candidates in 24 hours. So. Okay, but I think the EFRA ambassadors could be a good connection. In the question that we had with Mark Stiles together with if the pro driver don't taking care about the hobby drivers, and Mark Stiles said that he's not agree. I'm not agree also, because we can see a very good example. So with the pro drivers working with the customer or working with the normal drivers. I had in my mind a good example, Carmine Raiola from Italy. You can see his post on Facebook, working with the new drivers and new customers who are getting a kit. And also, I think EFRA Ambassador could be very useful for those persons who enter in the RC, working with the local clubs, with kids, with schools, and promoting the hobby or the motorsport as a whole.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to be very exciting when we get to announce a handful. We're thinking maybe 5 to begin with. We're not sure exactly, but it's a very difficult process to take 16 down to 5.
It's very difficult. In the beginning, our plan is try to get 5, because we didn't expect that we can reach 5. Now we have 16, but it's to say no. It could be hard, but I don't want to say no. I want to say, hey, maybe we're going to introduce these 5 EFRA ambassadors, because on the other hand, we need figures that we can manage. So we don't want to say yes to 16 and then we cannot manage those 16. We can start as a small, with maybe 5 could be a good name, but the other 11 can be work for EFRA in different areas. They don't necessarily to be EFRA ambassador. You can work with EFRA. We can work for the RC in different areas. So I don't want to say, okay, you are not valid for EFRA ambassador. Of course, you are valid for EFRA ambassador for sure, 100%. But if it's not possible because EFRA cannot manage those 16, okay, we are going to work with you in other ways.
And it's vitally important that we have a good spread of people, nations, languages, classes of racing, all genders. We need to have a good representation of modern multicultural Europe, don't we? We need to say that everyone's invited. And how can we do that if we don't have a nice spread of representation?
Exactly. But we did it. So all the 16 candidates represent the RC and the, let's say, the population of the European Union. You can see RC legends, you can see top drivers, you can see people who are related with motorsport outside of RC. So, wow, that's amazing. So we didn't expect that. So it's this kind of candidatures for us is a big success. So only we need to manage properly and to continue working with those 16, because I don't want to get outside anybody. Yeah, but of course, as your question, we have to represent with the EFRA ambassador, because it's the human representation of EFRA. So they are going to represent EFRA, they are going to represent the RC, in Europe, in the social media, even in different events. So I think it's important and it's a big responsibility.
Indeed. So stay tuned for that. We will be announcing some ambassadors very soon, hopefully, and work with that we have ongoing with House of RC. If you've only just tuned in, you can rewind and see a lively conversation about qualifying racing and all the panel's views on that. We will be releasing Nick's article, which is kind of the basis for this conversation, in the next 24 hours. And we will also have a questionnaire because we want to hear from you guys. We want to be able to represent the will of the wider motorsport community, the RC motorsport community, don't we?
Yeah. We have three, as I said before, we are cooperating closely with the associate member, and we are cooperating with the federation. And also we need the feedback from people who are not relating with from one side or the other. So with the social media can bring us the opportunity to get the feedback from isolate drivers in any place in Europe. But our strength is federation, associate members, and the feedback that we can get from the community in general. So I think we feel that we are doing the right things in the right way, and now we are in the right plane, even without races in Europe.
Yes, yeah, and it's
internationally speaking, I mean.
Yes, it's important that we use this time to make these things happen, because it's going to get very busy. One of these days there will be racing. We did promise to touch on the COVID, the event schedule. I think I'm looking through what we had left to talk about. Obviously, the vast majority of events have been cancelled. There is a 2-month, there is a deadline, there is a whole system in place for when the announcements are made, isn't there? I think we're actually a bit ahead of schedule as well on the announcements.
Yeah, exactly. We have we create inside the EFRA board a cut-off date program, which means that the calendar we're planning in the beginning, we're going to decide if the race is going to happen or not in the last 2 months. At the moment, suddenly we cancel every race until 31st of July. So included the 1.8 buggy in Redovan, even because it's 60 kilometers from my home. Now, as I said in the beginning, the situation in my region is good. So it's less than 25 per 100,000 population. I think it's quite controlled. But the fact is that to travel around Europe is not easy at all. So it's very difficult to plan a race with a test, negative tests, quarantines, it depends on the countries. So it's very difficult, even for the organizer. We don't have to forget that for the organizer, it's a very big responsibility. For the government in the local region, if something happens, it's a big task, a big responsibility. So, yeah, it's suddenly it's a negative news that we can bring to the community right now. It's still pending races in August. That is mainly our section, Julie's section and my section, is 1/8 and 1/10 in Spain and Italy. Well, I cannot say positive things right now. We are waiting a little bit to see if the race is going to happen. We are waiting for the official announcement from the official feedback from the federations. From Spain and Italy at the moment, it's not looking good. But we are going to wait at least another week, and let's see in the beginning of June what will be the results of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, but if the race is going to happen, as I said, we said before, we have to support the nationals and we have to support the local races.
Yeah, and this is a good time for us to spotlight this year, that we can really spotlight the nationals, and we are working. We want the federations to share with us their news and if they have a live stream, we want to share it. If they have media created at the event, let's all share it, because there will be people in other countries that are interested to see how the stars of RC are getting on. And if you have to watch those stars in their national race, then it's still interesting to see, like you said. I want to see how Robert Battier is getting on. I need to check out Icar and the Spanish nationals.
Exactly. I think it's great. When I buggy in Spain, everybody knows that we have a great level with the international driver, world championship, European championship level drivers. So everybody could be interested to see the national. So it's a kind of call for the national federation that we exactly discussing the same things 2 weeks ago in our meetings, that we need this kind of media. I'm, as a fan of my section, I want to see the German national, I want to see the Italian nationals, because most of the top drivers are there.
Yeah.
So I think we have to work in that area. If our races is not going to happen, it's still pending 40 plus also in September. I don't want to forget. We don't know exactly what will be the situation in France, and I think it's in Austria. But anyway, we'll wait.
We'll wait. And yes, as sad as it is to publish the news of events being cancelled, the whole community seems to be disappointed but understanding that, you know, it's the right thing to do. It's not fair for an organizer to put on an event that most people can't attend. You know, the losses that they would make would be terrible. But also it's not fair to declare a European championship when only part of Europe can attend as well. So
exactly. That's our two main concerns. For the fairness on the racing, on the competition as a whole. On the other hand, the pain, economically speaking, for the organizer. We are ready. We're ready in EFRA for the big slots this year because it's a 2 years without races. Fortunately, with the good work in the past, we can afford that, and we can afford to work in that kind of stuff that we're working. But to come back stronger into 2022, I'm so confident, I'm so motivated. In 2022 will be a key year in the RC racing, in the RC community.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Well, it's been good to talk again.
Yeah, that's a pleasure, you know.
Good news, we'll leave you with good news. Max Mackler has just registered for House of RC. It says it looks like a great page and awesome. So welcome aboard, Max.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really amazing tool that is in the hands of the Federation and EFRA. Yeah. And also I think it's thanks to Connie to be open to work with us. And I'm for sure more news will come soon.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you for watching. It's been great to have you with us. And we'll see you soon.
Yep. I hope to see you soon, man. Okay, we can continue talking and in the next month. I will see you in the next month. But don't hesitate to contact our PR department with Max as a head, and also with me, because I have easy contact, and the rest of the board to make some feedback, comments, or whatever we want to talk. Because we are here to working for the RC community, and I think it's time to work without races to try to come back, as I said, stronger in 2022. Thanks to all the RC community, and I hope to see you soon physically, because as a Spaniard, we need to contact physically and to talk face to face.
Let's do it. See you soon.
See you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.